So if I create some more primitives, I'll zoom in here, I can create a box, which, as I said, some of these have multiple clicks that you need to make. So if I go over here and into the perspective, drag a box, I click and drag to set the width and height, up again to drag up again and click to set the height, the width and length before, and then set the height. I create a cylinder, very similar, but click, drag, set the radius, drag to set the height, and then click to finish it. Same thing, so torus. So there's so many different kinds of objects that you can make with 3D Studio. You just keep going. Teapot, right? We already made some of those. And you'll also see that when I creating these things, I generally like to create either in the perspective view or in the top view. It's because if I create in a front view or left view, like if I were to create a teapot right here, the teapot will sit on its side. So it uses whichever view you've got active as sort of where its bottom is sitting. And so again, sometimes you do want to create a torus in that view, but more often than not, I create things in the top and perspective view. Perspective view behaves similar to top in that it uses this as the ground plane. So if you don't want things skewed off to their side, you can create in one of those two views. A cone, and so you can just keep going on and on. These are just the standard primitives anyway. Plane, right? So many different kinds of things you can create immediately. Now, and every one of them has a slightly different parameters. These are all what are called parametric objects, which means they are made up of a certain set of parameters, and so you can change those whenever you want. So if I go back to creating a teapot, and as I'm on that teapot, I can change the radius, even if I don't like what I've drawn. I can just, I want it to a little bit bigger. I didn't draw it quite right. I can change the radius. Teapot's a little chunky right here, so I can change the segments and make it smoother. And then, being a parametric teapot, I can choose to have the handle, or not a lid, or not a spout if I want. So all of these parametric objects can be created and are built from parameters, and those parameters can be changed at any time. All right, keep going, and you can create tons of other different types of things. So if you go down here, you get extended primitives, and you can create things like chamfer boxes, which is just like a box, but then on the last click, I click to set a radius of a thing called a fillet on the side of the box, which actually creates much more natural looking geometry than just a perfectly solid edged box. There are really no things in the real world that have perfect, crisp edges like that. So chamfer primitives, and I use these chamfer primitives all the time, are far more natural. And so you have a chamfer cylinder. You can create that, move that up, and then on the last click, you set the number, or the radius of the fillet. And it's very small there, so if I accidentally created it too small, I can just use one of these spinners. These are called spinners. They're just up and down arrows, but the reason they're called spinners in 3D Studio Max, or the cool thing that you can do with them, instead of clicking a bunch of times or setting a numeric value, I can click anywhere on one of these spinners and drag up or down to change that value very quickly. So it's really handy in 3D Studio, and you can even drag all the way off screen if you want, and it'll wrap around and keep changing that value for you. So these spinners are a really great way of adjusting stuff. So same thing, height, radius, anything, you can spin it, and it makes it a lot faster to change these values. Same thing with height segments. Sides, which is a common one to change with the cylinder. 12 just usually isn't enough, gets real chunky, so you want to change the number of sides all the way up, higher, and also then the fillet segments. So fillet segments will give you a smoother result along the side, along the little radius there. And keep going here, you can create capsules, right? So let's do that again. There we go. Create a capsule. You can create hose. Right? That's pretty cool. So you can create all of this relatively complex geometry with just a few clicks, right? And it gets even better because you can come down here. We'll talk about compound in a little bit, but you can create particle systems really easily. So if you come down here and just click and create some snow, right? You click and drag the size of it, and then as you move it up, you can make it snow. Okay, so you create particle systems very easily. You come down here and create. You can create even doors. So let's create a a bifold door. So I'm going to click, drag, set the height of it, and actually that sets the. I always forget which way it's going. So then, if you forget, that's again the great part is you come down here and change the depth. I accidentally made it way too deep, so I come down here and change the depth, and now you have a bunch of options that you can go through. You can make it double doors, you can flip the swing of it, but then you have a cool little parametric option, which is I can open them just a little bit. So this is super cool that you can create things this easily in 3D Studio and modify them this easily in 3D Studio. All right, so you come down here and you can create, similar to doors, you can create windows. So if I come down and create a an awning type of window and go like so, and again I made it a little too thick, so I want to change the depth of that, and you can do change the number of rails and panels in there, so like so, and then how open that awning are. Still a little bit too deep, so not a problem. I can always go in and change that. Now if you've accidentally clicked outside and like I did, just started to create another awning type of window, right? You can't go back here and change the modifications, because if I'm in the create panel, these parameters here will only let me change the thing that I'm about to create or the thing I'm currently creating. I've already clicked off of this window here, and so that is something that's been created. Well, you might think you're done for, but you're not, because all you have to do is you have to go to this next panel over, the Modify panel. You click on the Modify panel, and that gives you access to all of the parameters that that thing has got. So if I want to change the depth again back, if I made it too thick, I can just do like so, or change the amount of openness, then I can do that as well. But once you created it and clicked away from it, you have to make those changes now in the Modify panel. Okay, so again, you just explore through here, and the number of things that you can create. 3D Studio even allows you to create different types of foliage, right? And so click, and I can create a palm tree just that easy, right? It's incredible. And then if I go back to the Modify panel, I can change the height of my palm tree and do all this kind of stuff. And there's no way I could go through all the possible parameters of this. The best way is to just explore. So the amount of primitives that 3D Studio ships with that you can just create using just a couple of clicks is truly stunning, really. Create all these extended type of primitives, weird shapes and stuff, handy shapes, stuff you can use before, architectural shapes, doors, different types of doors with different opennesses, windows. You can actually create all kinds of foliage, trees, just with a couple of clicks, and it's incredibly easy. More architectural primitives and stuff. So it really is amazing the sheer amount of primitives that 3D Studio ships with that are just so easy to create immediately.